I actually had a job interview to be a tester, like is it QA or QI tester for Football Manager, which I thought was the dream job, but it was very small pay.
Whoa. Have you hit that subscribe button? If not, what are you waiting for? Do it.
Hello, one and all. Welcome back to Retrospective. It's the usual suspects. It's me and it's Chris. That's not ever going to change, so unlucky, guys. Before we do get into it, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's important.
Please hit subscribe because
makes us feel better.
It does. It helps us out. Okay.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps, man. We need it. We're edging towards the 300 barrier
At the moment of recording, we'll definitely have hit it by the time that.
Fingers crossed. Help us out. Basically, help us out. Is what I'm trying to say to you. Anyway, this week we're joined by the brilliant Will Brazier. How are you, man?
I'm all right, gents. Thanks for having me. Lots of it's probably the most Worcestershire chat I've ever had with people regarding an interview. So it's great to start that way.
It's always nice to differentiate, I guess, isn't it? I get a fresh perspective, and Worcester's such a glorious place that how can you not discuss it?
Anyone that stepped foot in bushwhackers, I know, is a friend for life. So it's going to be a great, great podcast.
Big up. So how has things been in lockdown for you, Will, through working and stuff? What's the situation been like?
It's been all right, to be fair. So I'm quite fortunate. So I worked for 3 years full time at a company called Social Chain, who looked after Sporf, which is like a social media publisher. And then I went freelance, but I still retained some days there. So I had those days coming in and kind of just focused on that to start with for a bit of structure. And then, I don't know, just sort of, I used to go down to London every weekend for different stuff for Sky and different things. And then that just obviously ended pretty in an instant. But that's sort of back and running now. So I think I sort of went into lockdown thinking, I think everyone did, thinking the first week they could take over the world, and then just spent a lot of time playing Warzone in the end. But I have got 16 to 17 victories now, so it's a sort of, maybe not the world, but I am taking over Verdansk, so that's something, I guess.
Yeah, it's a nice place to start for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll read it right back now, Will. So basically, for those who don't know who you are and what you do, can you just give us like a sort of a brief background?
So currently I'm a freelance presenter and producer, mainly on the presenting side, and then that probably looks more at like different social media brands or different brands that are looking to activate socially. So my work will either come from obviously through Sporf, and then they're owned by a company called Social Chain, which is a worldwide social media agency, and it was kind of not the first, but it's probably the biggest to grow in that space, and I get work through them. So whether that's all weird and wonderful things, but fantastic stuff. So that's like amazing for me, and like, I've had some great opportunities for that. And then other freelance wise, to do some stuff with 5 Live on the BBC. And then other permanent gigs are the Football Social with Sky Sports and Football Daily, which is good fun, especially now the football's back, just watching it with your mates. And then who do we have on? Jose Enrique and his dog, who pissed on the floor at the weekend. So
I love Jose Enrique, man. Absolutely adore that man. But yeah, so where did it all start for you, mate? Were you always this? Because I always say, like, when I was younger, I used to watch like game shows and stuff like that to sort of get myself inspired for this kind of thing. So how did it all start for you?
What, in terms of getting into
sort of presenting and that kind of stuff? Are you always that kind of kid?
Probably always the loudest. So I remember in year 4, I actually created a magazine and sold it to my friends for 20p each, and I was actually won an award that week, guys, so you're in royalty right now. But yeah, no, always that sort of always interested in that sort of stuff. Went to uni and did journalism, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do, and that was getting closer and closer, so I decided to do a master's just to buy some time, and then lived at home sort of bit. Worked at Game, which is one of my favourite jobs of all time, in the ball ring.
Big up the ball ring.
Yeah, big up the ball ring. Fantastic. And then I'm trying to remember now, short-term memory. What did I do then? Oh, so I did my master's. As part of that, I needed to get work experience as a placement. So I sent off loads of different emails. I actually had a job interview to be a tester, like is it QA or QI tester for Football Manager, which I thought was the dream job, but it was very small pay. then I came back from that interview really frustrated, and then I really liked the Rizzle Kicks at the time. Remember the Rizzle Kicks?
Yep, I do. Chris probably doesn't because he's
As in
way
like,
younger than
as
me.
in like the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't know. I've started showing my age recently, so I didn't know if I was. And
Yeah,
they'd
mummy.
retweeted. They'd been on this radio station, and I saw it, sent an email. But if you're sending work experience emails off, it normally takes about, like, if you get here back in a week, you're fortunate. And then the guy who owned the company, it was called Food Bar Radio, literally emailed me. I think it was in half an hour. And he emailed me back quite a lot, whereas it was a bit too much. Whereas with my friend, and he was like, "You sure this guy's all right?" Turned out he was all right, and he did own a radio station. And then I started working for them on a placement, and then got a permanent job as like a producer. So yeah, that's how it started.
So that was the start, and how did it progress then into all the gigs you've done? Post that. So you mentioned Sky, BBC. So what was the journey like into those places?
Well, that was quite fortunate. So that radio station was very small, and they'd launched as a comedy radio station. It hadn't worked out. Subscription model hadn't worked out. So they were like in the process of changing it. And because it was small, you got to pitch ideas. So I was a proper YouTube fanboy and was like, we should get some YouTubers in. And much like yourself, Hass, I sent quite a lot of template emails around. And I sent one to Jack Mate, who is a YouTuber. You probably know him. And he was like, I'm up for doing a show. Came and did a pilot with his mate Tom, who's now my mate. And then he was like, we want you to be sort of on-air producer, basically the bitch of the show, which at the time I was all up for doing. And then did that. We worked together for a year. And then I just kind of wanted to kick on and do more social media stuff. So me and Jack, I left the radio station, which was a full-time position. So I had to call my mum and dad up to tell them I was leaving a full-time job to go and work with a YouTuber in Norwich, who they sort of knew. And we started a business which was not very future-proofed, the name, because we called it 1080 Football. But as we all know, 4 and 8K, they were on the horizon then, so I don't know what we were thinking. So we did that for 6 weeks, moved to Norwich for about 2 weeks. It was a football YouTube channel. And it was when the football YouTube scene was kicking off. So we had a game against #United. It all started really well. And then we needed some extra funding, which was going to be at one point from the Sullivan brothers, the sons of David Sullivan. So we went to the first ever game at the London Stadium, met them. They were all up for investing. And then basically Steve Bartlett, who owns Social Chain, messaged Jack and said, do you want to get involved with this project we're starting? It was Sporf was rebranding. And we met them, and the rest was sort of history. Yeah,
it's a hell of a progression as well to go from being involved in a radio station to stepping in kind of into the unknown world. I mean, I think a lot of people have quite a different look on. It was quite a divided look on YouTube, particularly sort of the older generation who perhaps don't understand it. I mean, at the time when you obviously breaking through into that, did you visualize YouTube as the future in that sense in the media world?
I think it was the way that it was launching personalities, and personalities can and still are, and I think for the future can be like brands that are just as big as brands like Sporf and brands like Sport Bible. So I think that was the most interesting things. It's still something like personally I haven't cracked, and I've still got like an itch to do that. But I think you see like friends that have done it as well, and it just means you can create an audience which you, as long as you're creating content for them and obviously feeding that, you can sort of like take them anywhere, whether that's like to Twitch or to, that's what you used to see a lot back in the day, wasn't it? Like personalities going to football channels and going from there. But yeah.
Is that where you see yourself developing? Do you see yourself developing into, per se, a content creator doing all of this stuff, or do you mainly want to focus on the presenting side of things?
I think my problem is that I want to do everything and I don't do anything. So I started a YouTube channel last year that lasted about 5 weeks. Went from saying I was going to do 2 uploads a week. I think I did my last upload was probably November. but I like the presenting side, and I think it's having the confidence to push. Like, I've got the confidence to actually do the gigs. It's like that confidence to. I don't know, really. It's quite a good question. I haven't really thought about myself, which I probably should have done because it is my career. I really like to do more presenting. I really like the content creation stuff. So I love live stuff. So I'm going to start a Twitch channel next week. And I think that can feed different things as well. And for me, it's just being busy. So like whether that's the football social and concentrating that on the weekend, or the Sporf stuff, just like to be creative and feed that.
Well, you mentioned the football social there. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. It's kind of like it's like a full circle thing for us, really, because we've had a few of the Football Daily guys on here.
Who have you had on?
We had Doogie Critchley on not so long ago.
Yeah, Doogie on. Just speaking to Doogie.
Big Doogie, yeah. And then we had Kieran Carlin on a few weeks before that. Yeah. Obviously, he's since departed and is now working with Will NE. But, I mean, me, myself, I've done a fair few work experience stints with them and stuff as well. So it's kind of like mutual friends in that aspect. So I'm aware fully of, the stuff you're mentioning. But in terms of the football social and, that as a product in that sense, it's different to the traditional match of the day sort of format. It's a step. Do you feel like it's a step towards what's to come, over the coming years? Do you feel like that's more of a look to how TV could begin to become over time?
Well, I think you even see with how Sky have implemented, like with the Saturday social, so that goes on an hour before Soccer AM, and you think of, obviously it's Joe and Smithy presenting it, and then you think of the talent and the guests that they've had on there. Won't include myself in that, but you think that likes of like Chunks and Steve-O the Madman, Poet and Vooge and everyone like that, and Timsy, that's a clear sign of intention from them, and I think the show's doing really well, and that sort of fed into, like, we still do the football social, but they've introduced the Sky Watch Along now, which is, we've got like people like Akinfenwa on there and different guests that sort of not like a children, it's more of a younger demographic. So like under 35s would sort of feed that demographic, which I think a lot of established brands were a little bit behind on, but now definitely have got that front of mind.
Yeah, it's quite a crazy progression for football YouTube. If you think back to how it was when Copper 90 were really sort of the chief amongst it, and they were doing like documentaries like Derby Days and stuff like that. I mean, did you ever foresee it kind of growing to where it is now, where it's on mainstream TV and working alongside those big partners?
I think sort of, yeah. I think with the YouTube, the actual YouTube side of it, it's very hard to be sustainable in that, because obviously the ad revenues aren't guaranteed, and that can fluctuate up and down, and you're not in control of that at all. So for the ones that were dependent on that, obviously when I first started, it was like Sporf, we were giving it a try, Football Republic, Ball Street, Slash Football, I think was around, Copper 90 were growing, and there's only a few really left of those. So I think from a business sense, it's for Sky and BBC and BT, obviously they're huge companies, and it's a bit more sustainable for them to carry on.
I remember that you brought up the Football Republic. Whoops! I've just clicked. I'm just going to have a look if are they still around.
So the Football Republic, I didn't purchase it. The social chain ended up purchasing the Football Republic. It's still sort of going, but not in its like usual capacity.
Yeah, they yet to upload in the last 6 months. I actually do remember that it was growing quite a rapid rate, wasn't it? So talk to sort of what happened with that in that respect, as much as you can, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's like I mentioned before. It's that most of the thing, a lot of that was you get people in who bring an audience. So I think the first one of that was people like True Geordie brought an audience to the Football Republic, and then other people bring an audience. But if they're not on that channel anymore, the viewers unfortunately go away. So you are left with like a quite impressive subscriber number, but might not necessarily see the views in. But then the Football Republic's been quite successful in branching out into, I know it's got a really like engaged Facebook and Instagram page as well. So I think it's just one of the things that the social chain always does is focuses on one of our taglines is like ever changing. So it's just making sure you evolve, and even like now, Facebook, the CPMs are so high at the moment. I think a lot of people gravitate for that for now, but then it doesn't mean you can change into something else in the future.
Yeah. So is that something that, obviously, when you first got into the industry, it was, I don't know, it still is unknown, but it's grown now, and it is ever changing. So what sort of changes do you foresee happening on platforms like YouTube and Facebook and that kind of stuff?
I think with YouTube, from the football sense, it's quite interesting. Like, obviously, a lot of the channels have diminished. Because I was chatting to some of I think I was speaking to Hamill the other day from Football Daily, and there's not like I don't know what I'm trying to say. There's not really a massive backing by YouTube, I feel, in terms of like football creators, or like, for instance, on the trending tab, there's not even a sport trending tab, which I do find a little bit strange. And obviously, as a massive brand like Google, your first port of call would be to service brands like Sky, BT, and BBC with highlights and stuff like that. But I just feel that they can maybe do a little bit more for like the individual creators. So obviously Spencer's been around for years and is still there, and he's still producing that amazing content. But especially for like some of the smaller guys from like 0 to 100k, I think there's a lot more that could be done there from YouTube. Was that answer your question, or am I just
I think so,
going off on a path?
No, going off a path is something we all do anyway. I mean, it still answered it, which is the important thing. But in terms of, whether YouTube will recognise that in time, I mean, obviously you mentioned Football Daily. Those guys are backed by Sky, of course, which kind of plays into their favour in that sense, because they've got that name behind them, which maybe gives them the leg up other sort of content creators don't necessarily have. But can you see, people doing that more, as in those big names doing that more? Or do you think that those big names will make their own forays into the market? I mean, we've seen BT kind of doing that. They make their own steps in there. But do you think they would be, safer investing in the talent that's already there? Or do you think that they'll make their own sort of tiptoe into it?
I think it's more. I think Sky, BT, and BBC have like hit the nail on the head quite well. Like you said, with the Football Daily investment as well, and obviously they're not just getting the channel; they're getting like an amazing talent roster there as well. Like you've seen how Joe Tomlinson's progressed on, and he's absolutely smashed it, and rightly so. And formerly of this parish, Doogie, and he's cracked on, and was hosting Football Social the other day, and Hamill has been fantastic as well. So I think it's more maybe like other brands that maybe need to look at that as well. But I think there'll always be a place for, if for instance, like Spencer's built himself up into such a platform, he's created his own platform which he can service, and he's doing well, and hashtag's going to be a legacy till to the end of time for him. And then, but he's obviously, they get him in for FIFA stuff and for BT. So I think it'd just be, everyone knows everyone, and that's because like everyone's just mingling and mixing. It's like a football social media dinner party that's ongoing for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and do you think that importance of them mingling as opposed to competing against each other probably in an unhealthy way is important? Because often you'll get, on other sectors of YouTube, you'll have people like, well, I've got more subscribers than you, so therefore I'm bigger in that sense. Do you find that the fact that these guys sort of help each other out and sort of leg each other up is a key thing to that sector growing? I mean, we've seen, even with Football Daily, they work with a variety of people. We saw them even sort of cross paths with HITC not so long ago and having Irish guy on Star Wars, for example. So how important do you think it is for them to be together as a unity more so than the kind of continual competition?
So it's like a double-edged sword. So when I was like full beans on Sporf, and like that was like, everything you think about 24/7, you'd see other things from, like me, and I did some stuff with James Alcott the other week, and I didn't really know him in the past, but now we're really good mates. And like, if I used to see him on a shoot from Ball Street, probably wouldn't speak to him because you're a bit like territorial. You know, oh, we're going to do better than you, or like they do an idea and we'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, why didn't we do that? And then you come to meet everyone, and everyone's, well, I've only met nice people, I think, so far. So even the way the Football Daily lads have treated me, like Chris getting me on the Football Social was like an amazing break for me. And I just think it's just being nice. And if you can meet nice people on the way, that's just there's just no need to be a dickhead, basically. So.
Well, yeah, we know a few, don't we, Ass?
I think everyone...
I know a few, yeah. Just haven't brought them up.
Absolutely, everyone knows them. So, would you say that you said that you only meet nice people? Do you think that that's an indicative of being successful? Is that you have to be sort of a nicest guy or girl?
Well, I just think it's not burning bridges as well. So even if you do think someone's a dickhead, or you haven't got much time for them, like there's no need not to be nice. So I just try to never burn any bridges, to be honest, because I don't think it's just not helpful, and I hate confrontation anyway, so it's not a good look for me, and I don't really like dealing with that. So just smile and wave.
Quoting the Madagascar penguins there, I like to hear it. So last couple from me. So for you, Will, where do you see your future lying in terms of, is it YouTube, is it Twitch, is it presenting? What's the ultimate goal for you?
So I think there's a few. I'd like to sort of build my own platform a lot more. Like, I'm very fortunate to get the gigs I do for like such small social following. So if I can build up my numbers across different platforms, I think that's great. So I think a big focus on Twitch for me, just because I like gaming, really like doing live stuff, and especially like community stuff where you can build your own platform. I think one, that's very rewarding for myself, and then two, you can, like we mentioned earlier, maybe like take that to different places and maybe get known for other things. I'd like to focus on the presenting more. I'd like to sort of hopefully lead and anchor more different things. Got very fortunate to do the Carabao Cup stuff with Akinfenwa, so hopefully just build on that and do different things in the presenter space. And then I'd like to focus a little bit more on the producing side of it, so coming full circle. So if any like feature length pieces or podcasting that not necessarily I have to be in, but looking at that as well.
Yeah, and in terms of those breaking into the industry, what would you recommend to people who are just trying to make those baby steps into it?
So they've probably got a bit too much of a mention so far today, but the Dave Jackson from Football Daily did Hamill's podcast when it first started, and he said about getting into smaller places. It's quite a specific tip, but getting into smaller businesses where you can actually have an impact from the start, and you can actually maybe not have an impact, but you can learn so much more than. I'm sure it is fantastic to get in at like the BBC at a lower level, but I think the rate of progression there is, maybe because I'm impatient, but the rate of progression there I imagine is quite, not slow, but in comparison to when I worked at Fubar, I did a month writing articles, a month producing, and then they were kind enough to like listen to some of my ideas and take them on board. So I think what Dave said about getting into smaller places, and even like you guys who said obviously you've been writing articles and different things for websites, and even just it's so easy to build your own platform and showcase what work you can do now, and I think just being useful as well. So like I've got no divine right to be on anything, but hopefully I'm useful for the Football Social to be the loud lanky one who shouts when there's a goal in, because that's a need that I can service. But I think some people sometimes think that they've got like a divine right to, because they've got a degree and they think, right, brilliant, that's me sorted now. But no, you need that. It's working with people as well. Like I think working, I had like bar jobs. I used to sell doors and windows. Worked at Game, big at the ball ring. So I think it's just knowing how to work with people as well, because If someone doesn't like you, then they're not really going to hire you.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on a similar line, if you were to meet your younger self, just fresh breaking into the industry, a fresh face, fresh blooded Will Brazier, just stepping into that industry, what would you say to your younger self as a piece of advice that you've learned along the way?
Probably grow facial hair a little bit earlier, just because I do just look quite young until the end of the time.
I'm trying out here, Will. All right.
You're getting there, Chris. You're fine.
Trying.
I can see it on here.
Brilliant.
I think just say yes to everything, and then I know it's a bit Gary V and a bit wanky, but failing a lot more as well, just because that's when, in hindsight, I have learned the most, and because I'm bordering on 30 now. That's where you say you don't look it. That's where you learn the most. So I got kicked out of school, learned a lot from that. Just doing all the different projects that I haven't worked at Food Bar and Sporf, we've learned a lot. So yeah, just failing a little bit more.
I think that's a good way to finish it, Has. Fail more, people. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Will, for joining us. Where can we find you on social media, mate?
Just my Twitter and Instagram, which I think is at Will Brazier.
Oh, you're one of the lucky ones. Brilliant stuff. At the Hasan Karim and at Chris Stonadge as well. Go follow us on Twitter and subscribe to the channel, because there is 89% of you that aren't, that are watching this. You're evil people. It's easy. It's easy to go and click that button, so do it right now. Anyway, anything else from you, Hasan Karim?
We've got On the Canvas coming up soon. So
it would already be out, mate.
It will already be out. That will be out, but there'll be a few of them by that point, because combat sports is back, boys. So we love it.
Exactly.
But yeah, other than that,
does WWE count as a combat sport, or am I just living in a fantasy?
No, I'm not having this.
I'll agree with you, man. But Chris is a bit of a hater. I still love it. Yeah, it's still real to me. Damn it. No. Other than that, just keep checking out the content, boys and girls. It's all good stuff.
And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.